Hi, once again, we're at Kicking Ideas, and today I have a really special guest. My guest is Cassiano, and we're going to talk about a really cool topic, which is esports versus regular sports and how that's going to actually play out in the future. And as you know, Kicking Ideas is always a bilingual, um, conversation between me in American English and
Mhm.
usually the person who I'm talking to is going to be speaking in Brazilian Portuguese. And today,
Mhm.
Cassiano, from what I understand, you're Brazilian, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'll leave it to Cassiano now to explain the Portuguese side.
Ok. Então, hoje nós vamos aqui conversar sobre o esporte, na verdade não contra, né? Mas nós vamos debater essas ideias hoje com o Kicking Ideas, o Cassiano, o Robert, então ele vai estar falando, eu vou estar explicando também em português, e aí nós vamos ver como se desenrola a partir de agora, ok?
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I met Cassiano years back. We were working at the same English school. So I know he has great
Uhum.
English. It's like the first time I've ever heard him actually speak in Portuguese in the whole time I've met him. So I'm actually
Sim,
really excited to hear this.
sim.
And like, what part of Brazil are you from?
Eu sou do Sul, seria o estado do Paraná, em Curitiba. Seria um pouco abaixo de São Paulo.
Got it. I got it. So you're from the South, and a lot of people from the South have a similar kind of São Paulo style accent. I think everybody that's in the South kind of has one similar accent, and then if you go north of Rio de Janeiro, they start speaking differently. So I assumed you were from around São Paulo area. Mhm.
Então, mas eu perdi, na verdade, o sotaque, né? Mesmo sendo do Sul, eu já não tenho mais sotaque, né? O pessoal do Sul fala mais cantando, falo daí, né? Doente, o mais puxado. Então, porque eu convivo muito com o pessoal de São Paulo. Talvez seja por isso também.
Okay, that makes a difference. So like people say when I speak in Portuguese that it sounds a little more São Paulo-esque, but I always say
Sim.
dois and I always say arroz. And
Português de Portugal.
yeah, so I have no idea where
Sim,
it is comes from exactly, but yeah, I've
sim,
known some cariocas and I like the way that they speak. So that's the
sim.
that's kind of how I speak. But if anybody asks me, I usually say I'm from Acre
Acre.
because everybody says that Acre doesn't exist, and then I'm like, well, hey man, right here.
Eu tô aqui.
But I'm not really,
Mas é a mesma coisa nos Estados Unidos, não é? Por exemplo, se você morar muito tempo no Texas, você não vai falar calmo e
oh, for
eles falam
sure.
pegar o.
For sure. I would always pick up accents wherever I'm at. So even though I have British friends, so I say some things that are British. Like for example, I'll say, um, "Yeah, I'd like to do that, but I can't be bothered." We almost never say that in American English.
Perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. So like we'll also say another one that they well, there's so many. There's just so many with the British English, and I'm not even really cognizant. I don't really.
Mas você pega isso por automático ou é uma ironia? O pessoal acha que você está brincando?
People think that I'm playing British, right? But it's just automatic with me because my best friend is from England
Sim.
and he's from
Ah, sim,
Birmingham,
sim.
and so he uses a lot of Birmingham English with me, not a lot because and originally like this is a story I often tell is like we were flatmates here when I was living in Japan, and he just barely arrived in Japan. This is like 15
Olha
years ago. Anyway, so he says to me, "Jump to eat," and I was like, "What?" He
What?
said, he's like, "Oh, jump to eat," and I was like, "I'm so sorry, bro. I didn't understand anything you just said." And he's like,
Nada. Aham.
"Do you want something to eat. I was like, wait a minute. You just said, do you want something to eat? He says, yeah, 3 times now. So do you want something to eat? I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I couldn't understand. It was so amazing to me that I couldn't get it. But as we told and we promised the public about what we're going to talk about this evening is something I'm really interested in. It's a topic that I have thought about recently because one of the influencers that I like the best is Gary Vaynerchuk, and he talks a lot about the esports versus regular sports and how those two things are interacting. So when you talk about esports, and I did a bit of research, if I can just bring it up really quickly. Let me see if I can. I'm really terrible with computers.
Gary, ele faz streaming, não faz?
Yeah, I'm guessing. I mean, I don't know what my thing about it is I'm so terrible with like any kind of how could I say with any kind of things computer related. Like I turn on, I have apps on my phone, I don't even know their names, but I use them all the time.
Então você não é tech savvy.
Yeah, I am definitely the least tech savvy person that like I was trying today. I was like, oh, okay, email. So it's like, okay, I understand email. Not really though. But one of the things that I was, I kept hearing him say, and this Gary Vaynerchuk, he was saying it on TikTok, which I do use some apps, quite a bit. Like TikTok, I shouldn't be using it because I guess it's for kids, but I thought, nah, I'm young. So Gary Vaynerchuk was saying on TikTok that there are people who make lots of money on video games, by playing video games. And so I have this data that I went and looked up on. Is in 2020 the leading esports games worldwide.
Sim, eu não tenho essa lista. Me dê update aí, Roberto.
Okay, so let me show you my list that I got here. Let's share the screen a little bit.
Mostrar, tá.
Yeah, and I'll show you the screen, and we'll do this. Haha! See, there's my tech ability right there. So we have leading esports games worldwide in 2020 by cumulative tournament prize pool. So I guess that's like all the prize money that you could possibly earn from tournaments with esports. I'm assuming that you couldn't go to all of them, but maybe you could because these are online. I don't know, but anyway.
Não, ao mesmo tempo acho que seria impossível, Roberto.
Okay.
Ao mesmo tempo seria impossível. Então a pessoa tem que ser bom em mesmo.
Got it. Okay. So but I guess potentially you could earn you could earn millions doing this if you were good at several different games. And I think that a lot of the ability, to move and shoot in these first person shooters, I recognize some of these because my son plays them. I know my son, he plays Fortnite. So I'm going to hope that he does really well. I hope he starts playing more.
profissional.
That's $7.88 million US dollars in prize money. If he could just get one of those seven.
O dinheiro acumulado nesse ano, certo?
Right. That's how
much.
Yeah. In this year that it was, that was last year. And I don't know if it was higher because of the pandemic or lower. It makes sense that it would have been higher because people were, a lot of gamers were like, oh, there's a pandemic. It doesn't change my life at all because I stay home every day. I social distance every day. And then they went through their life as normal. But I've also heard of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I've also heard of Overwatch. I've heard of Rainbow Six Siege. I'm not familiar with some of these. Counter-Strike Global Offense. Yeah, I've heard of that a lot. I heard that that's like the biggest game for this, and it shows it in the money.
Porque está há muito tempo, Robert. Talvez porque ele está há mais tempo que todos os outros jogos.
I see. And so it has, what's this, 15.885 million dollars worth of
né?
yeah. So let's just get this straight. Like, when a professional boxer plays, they're gonna make more, right? Um,
Sim,
but the way I see it is, like, as an athlete myself, right? I'm in mountain biking, and for those that are following me on Facebook, I did hurt my leg. It's okay. It's just a torn muscle. Uh, when I say just a torn muscle, it hurts really bad. But
sim,
that's the difference. If I was doing, let's say, the equivalent game, esport game, where I was riding mountain bike on esport, I wouldn't have gotten a hurt leg, right? Because you're just controlling it with a controller,
sim,
and so the potential to play long term is a lot longer, I think, and the amount of different tournaments you could enter in is going to be higher than if you were a pro boxer.
sim,
Because if you're a pro boxer, you could get hurt. Any of the athletes, you have the chance of being hurt, but in esports, there's basically, is there any way you get hurt in esports? I'm just wondering,
sim, sim, sim.
how do you get hurt in esports?
Você pode receber um injúria não físico, talvez físico, provavelmente só a falta de sono, talvez seria os principais. A falta de sono, se você não descansar direito, vai afetar o seu desempenho. E a parte emocional, Robert. Talvez a parte emocional pegaria mais do que a parte física.
That's insane.
Porque a
Okay.
pressão, né? A pressão, o nervosismo, às vezes muita gente contando com você, porque normalmente como funciona muito diferente, né? Por exemplo, no esporte você pode treinar em qualquer lugar que você tá, talvez, né? Nos esportes normais, certo? Do esporte já vai depender por exemplo, se você joga em time, Counter Strike, LoL, Call of Duty, Dota, esses jogos normalmente você não vai jogar sozinho, você vai precisar de um time para jogar com você. E o que acontece? Tudo bem, joga online, certo? Mas eu não posso jogar com alguma pessoa daqui do Japão que mora lá na Europa. O que vai acontecer? Vão precisar morar mais ou menos perto para você ter a mesma conexão de internet para ter a vantagem no jogo.
Ah,
Então, assim, vai para aquele lugar e vão para o campeonato.
I totally
É algo
understand.
que envolve não uma logística, eu não diria uma logística, mas uma tecnologia para que fique balanceado para todos os jogadores, né?
Got it.
São diferentes dificuldades, eu acredito, né? E a parte do esporte tem o patrocínio, certo? Da parte do esporte também tem, mas é bem mais individual e talvez não é um apoio tão grande, né?
Maybe like a mountain bikers has some kind of support, or maybe like skateboarders had some support back in the day. Because like, if for
Como mais ou
example,
menos? Fica
if
mais ou
I'm
menos
gonna get
como?
if I was to get some kind of a sponsorship, it wouldn't be a lot, probably. I mean, and I'd have
Sim,
to be
mas
winning
o quanto poderia te
races.
manter? O quanto poderia te manter para você continuar fazendo esporte, praticando esporte?
Well, I mean, for me, I mean, I would be fine if they gave me about $20,000 a year. You know,
A year,
a year,
por
twenty
ano, 20
thousand US a
mil
year.
dólares é suficiente para cobrir o seu treinamento e a sua despesa, certo?
That would just be
Isso mais as
that would be
passagens ou
just that
não?
would be just to cover training, right? I wouldn't be able to
Só o
live off
treinamento.
of that. Yeah. So I'd have to have a part-time job, but I think, most of them do coaching or something like that is their part-time gig, or they do like nutrition, or they'll do physical stuff, or some of them are YouTubers. They'll do something on the side. Especially, I was thinking about the pro gamers, because you got guys like Neko from Japan,
Sim,
and I don't think he's like pro because he's a pro like in the gaming community, because I guess Japan suffers from a different problem. From what I understand, like getting into the games, getting into the tournaments, it's hard for the Japanese people to do it because of distance, because of whatever. And then, but the other thing is they become YouTubers and they get a whole bunch of people following them, and that's like another way to get a lot of money. So even guys that are like doing Minecraft as like you know what I mean, like not as just doing build offs on Minecraft, they're doing, you know, extremely well for themselves
Sim,
with YouTube. So that's something that I thought was actually really quite interesting, you know, because of the amount of uh, you know, just the amount of opportunity that exists that was
sim.
not even there. Could you talk a little bit about the opportunity that exists with this? Like, is this like, as like a parent, should I be worried about my son if he's like really interested in the game? And yeah, you made a point about the emotional side, but is this like, is this an opportunity for young people that is like, you know, an actual gig, like an actual job? Is this something that they could be good at?
Sim. Isso eu acho que vai levar tempo, Roberto, para descobrir se essa seria a vocação da pessoa, né, do jogador, porque eu vejo assim, né, eu comecei a streamar também, e eu vejo muito assim, pessoal que começa e acaba desanimando no meio do caminho, porque eu acredito que pode ser que leve mais tempo para pessoas. Eu vejo o pessoal subindo muito em um ano, subindo bastante em 5 anos. Né? Tem gente que já está 10, tá 10 anos. Então, eu vejo que é uma coisa de perseverança também, né? Claro que tem as habilidades, né? Você vai precisar de habilidades para você realmente poder competir, né? Com um monte de gente, igual a gente está falando agora da pandemia. Muita gente em casa. Imagina, você poder treinar 24 horas por dia. É muita coisa para tentar competir, né? Então eu vejo que é uma coisa bem de perseverança e ver se realmente é isso que você quer, né? Porque é muito tempo que você vai dedicar, né?
Right. I think that's the interesting thing for me is that, you know, we saw for so long, and I kind of noticed this. It was interesting. I looked at some of the programming because I think, and I recommend that parents do this. My
Hum,
son, he watches a lot of YouTube, and what I
uhum.
did is I sat down with him and I watched what he's watching, and some of the stuff he watches, I'm just like, oh, this is the stupidest stuff I've ever
Sim,
seen. And then I look
sim.
up what the net worth of this YouTuber is. It's insane. They're making
É
so
inacreditável, né?
much money. They're
Sim.
making an absurd amount of money. I was like, this is the silliest, like this video is lame. Like I would like personally from my point of view, it's like, why would you ever watch this? But then I
Sim.
look
É um
at the
lixo.
amount of likes that it has, I look at the amount of subscribers this guy has, and I'm like, wow. And then I look up their net worth, and it's impressive. Because like even the Japanese guys, they're still making more than your salary man does. They're still making more than you
Muito,
know,
muito
like
mais.
a lot of real, like even professional doctors and whatnot. Like I know that guy Hika King, he makes bank. He's like the richest of the
Ah,
you
não,
know,
ele faz propaganda
Gameojin.
de tudo, né, Roberto? Ele faz
Right.
propaganda de tudo, certo?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you know, there's like
Pela quantidade de seguidor que ele tem, o
mhm,
marketing vai atrás desses youtubers, streamers, porque é um alcance muito grande na questão nessa lista de marketing digital, entendeu?
right.
Então já não importa mais tanto o conteúdo, claro que importa. Ele não pode postar algumas coisas, tem as diretrizes lá da plataforma que você está usando. Mas assim, ele tem uma liberdade muito maior e diferente do esporte, às vezes o esporte vai cativar só pelo aquilo que a pessoa faz. Já do esporte, talvez não. Talvez as pessoas vão se conectar com aquela pessoa. Elas vão
Mhm.
falar, nossa, ele é igual eu. Nossa, ele pensa igual eu. Ele faz essas brincadeiras como eu penso, entendeu? Então, é um pouco diferente, talvez, dessa ligação do esporte com o esporte, né?
Right. Right. I just noticed, I mean, like the way that my son kind of idolizes these guys, and like he'll
Sim, você fala, por quê?
right. And it's like a lot of people, I think, that are of my generation, just to date myself, I'm this April I'll be 44 years old. So yay.
Uau, você
Yay.
lembra de mim.
so, but you know, but I get my you know, I think about that and what I perceive as legitimate sport, and
Sim, o contato.
what the new generation thinks of as a legitimate sport is, it's a totally different thing. Because my son,
Sim,
he's like, oh man, he came down, he was all sad. I was like, well, what's up? And he's like, oh, yeah, man, they kicked Neko off of Fortnite for a little while because of this thing. And I totally think it's unfair. And then he goes and explains the whole thing to me. And I was like, I understand about half of it. Like, and he goes to Japanese school, but he speaks to me always in English. And he just goes through and he's like, yeah, this is what happened. Now they're going to think about demonetizing and all this stuff that he goes and says. Like, how do you even know this stuff? Like, I didn't know what those things were, but it's just like they're growing up in this world. And that's why it's going to be interesting, because if you think about it, my parents' generation, baseball players, they made money. They didn't make a lot of money. Boxers made money. Boxers made huge dollars, but like regular like baseball players, American football players didn't make a lot of money. I mean, I wonder how much Pele made for his first, contract where he was actually became a pro soccer player. I'll bet if we look at it, it was nothing compared to what Cristiano Ronaldo makes or what.
Ele falava que comprava, dava para comprar roupa, Roberto. Era bem pouco
Right.
mesmo. Comprar
It's
roupa.
it was just nothing. So like we're looking at it from this point of view. It's the esports is in its infancy. It's just barely getting off the ground. I think in the future we're going to see esports be something a lot more substantial, and so it might be something to invest in. It might be something to invest your time in,
Sim,
where
com
you
certeza.
wouldn't do before. And that's the thing. So, and you said that I'm younger than you, so how do you know so much about things? That's the question.
Então, porque eu entrei, na verdade, eu sou gamer há muito tempo mesmo. Cresci jogando game. Mas, assim, sempre foi uma paixão e de um tempo para cá eu comecei a ver de uma forma diferente, né? Um amigo meu, ele começou a streamar e estava dando bastante certo para ele, né? Eu sou fã do Call of Duty, eu jogo Call of Duty muito tempo, desde o comecinho, né? Mas assim, sempre teve campeonato, mas nunca foi uma coisa muito grande assim, Roberto. O campeonato sempre acontecia ou na Europa ou nos Estados Unidos. O maior time lá de Call of Duty é dos Estados Unidos, chamado FaZe, né? Não são todos americanos, mas o time todo fica nos Estados Unidos. Então, eu sei que é na Califórnia, algum lugar da Califórnia. Então, isso trouxe bastante visibilidade, né? Para mim, assim, apesar de eu ser fã do Call of Duty, eu jogo outros jogos também. E eu comecei a ver o quanto isso tem crescido, né? Nos últimos anos. Eu fui ver a parte financeira, né? De 5 anos para cá, a indústria dos games tem crescido 30% ao ano. É muito dinheiro, Roberto. É muito dinheiro.
That's crazy big.
É muito dinheiro.
40% per year they've been growing in the amount of money that's insane.
Então, só que eles não estão conseguindo agora cumprir a parte da demo, porque aí eles não conseguem vencer de fazer videogames, né? Você viu a época do Nintendo Switch? Ficou um bom tempo, né? Sem eles conseguir estocar, né? Ficou um bom tempo. E agora está acontecendo com o PlayStation e na parte dos computadores também. Eles não estão conseguindo vencer a produção de placa de vídeo. Mas aí também tem outros periféricos que contam também, né? Como está nessa parte de monetização, então as mesmas placas de vídeo que é usada para jogar é as mesmas placas de vídeo que é usada para minerar Bitcoin. Então, tipo assim, tá faltando dos dois jeitos, né? Por incrível que pareça, por coincidência, eu trabalho de caminhão agora num lugar que fabrica as memórias, né? Da Toshiba, a Yokart.
Wow.
E não tem folga. Trabalha 24 horas por dia, 365 dias por ano. Não tem folga. Eles
And that's not all for Bitcoin. That's for the other stuff as well.
É muito dinheiro. É muito dinheiro.
No, okay, so that makes sense. So this is something that if you're thinking about learning more about it, investing in it, it's really big. I knew that also you were in airsoft. That was something you did.
Sim.
So
Sim.
let me get an idea of this. How does it? What does a game of Call of Duty? Does that scratch the same itch as the going out and airsofting?
Talvez as táticas, porque é muito diferente, né? Aí é a parte da que a gente queria conversar hoje, porque o tópico do esporte e o esporte não dá para viver sem um ou outro. A
I
gente
see.
viver só jogando só, talvez, o Airsoft, ou viver só jogando o videogame, eu acho que seria complicado. Não sei, né? Talvez tem gente que não gosta, não tem problema. Mas
So
largar o esporte em si, que você vai correr, que você vai suar, que você vai sentir adrenalina. Você gosta de andar de bicicleta, certo?
yeah.
Não tem como você andar no simulador e falar que sente a mesma coisa. Não é
Thank
igual,
you.
certo?
Thank you. Actually, because it's interesting, because when we're bringing this up, there's actually this this, I don't know what it is. It's like Zwift, I think is what it's called. It's a kind of simulator for
Hum,
cycling, and there were people doing that to get their numbers up on Strava, and
ah,
I'm on Strava for my bicycling, and I was like, oh
sim,
hell no, I ain't letting that happen. So I got out in the snow, I got out in the mountains, I climbed like serious mountains in horrible conditions, snow, and I was like, I am not letting these Zwifters win. And so like I put them to shame. I buried them. Like,
ah,
I worked so hard, and I pedaled past them, and I put their numbers were all down, and then they all looked at it as like,
sim,
yeah, I did all mine outdoor. I took pictures so that everybody knew that I was doing outdoor,
sim.
because I don't think that you should be able to compare those two things.
Não,
And that's what I was
não,
thinking, like but I would say that, yeah, it could scratch the itch, like if you're like, you can't go out, you can't do airsoft because social distancing and all those other things that were
sim,
lockdowns and things. So yeah, then you're going to build up your tactical game by going out and doing some Fortnite or something similar to that, some Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, or whatever it is, and then you're going to scratch that itch and learn how to like improve on your other game.
sim,
So like what I would say, I think that with the rollers, what they're called, the Zwift, the rollers that they use, I think they're a perfectly legitimate way to train. I just think that you
sim,
can't mark those numbers and put them next to regular bicycles, because that's just,
não,
it's a total different thing. You got weather, you got
não,
snow, you got all those other conditions, that visceral feeling, you know, and we don't have that visceral feeling when you're in front of a screen. And I think that's the main difference. And so yeah, they shouldn't be
sim,
really compared or compatible. But yeah, it was funny
não.
because like after I put them all down, like there was no more, like zero. Nobody was even posting their roller stuff. They were embarrassed about it because they were like, oh, I can get my numbers up by doing this. It's like, how do you get your climb numbers up on a roller? You can't. It's just not the same
Não.
thing at all. So I was like,
Mas eu vi
no.
bastante ultimamente medalha. Eles estão dando medalha, por exemplo, suba Monte Fuji, mas não precisa ir no Monte Fuji. Corre
Right.
em qualquer lugar que você está, vai contar a quilometragem e você vai ter subido 1.500 quilômetros e subir no Monte Fuji. Não, não é isso, gente. Se
No,
você não foi no
no,
Monte Fuji, você
no,
não foi no
no.
Monte Fuji.
Yeah, yeah. That's for sure. Like, I mean, like, there's a term we use. It's called Everesting on cycling, which like you
Sim.
climb the equivalent of meters in one day as the
Ah,
equal to Everest, and you try to do that as
uhum,
fast as possible. But yeah, it's not
sim.
even the same thing as
Não é.
climbing Everest, and
Não é.
there's no way you can climb Everest on a bike anyway. So this is just it's something that people try to do. It's a good challenge, but at the same time, not the same thing, not even to be compared, really. And I think that's the
Mas eu
main
acho que
point.
é isso, esse é o ponto, Robert. Eu acho que todo mundo quer um desafio na vida. Talvez é o que o ser humano tem dentro dele, né? Que
Hmm.
tem que completar metas, seja para mim, seja na área profissional, seja na área de hobby. Conseguir conquistar alguma coisa, né? Talvez seja isso que. Por isso que tem tanto, talvez. E muita gente que faz, né? Que acredita, né?
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I said, I'm so happy that you came on today and we had this
Sim,
conversation. And I think we can have
sim,
way cool conversations here going out. I
uhum,
I, I know that we got in to one of the reasons we kept in touch is because I kept pushing your buttons on Facebook political comments. But I think we need to talk about that too. And like on Kicking Ideas, the idea is nobody
sim,
really knows, nobody's an
sim.
expert on any of this. We're just kind of talking
Não,
about the ideas that are out there,
sim,
and doing it in a bilingual format so that people can learn language, and that's the main point. So um,
sim,
I'm really thankful for your time. And is there
sim.
anything you'd like to plug, or anything that you'd like to say before we finish up?
O pessoal pode me acompanhar também, né? Eu posso estar conversando. Mas também, se quiserem saber mais da parte de jogos e streaming, né? Que é um boom agora bem grande também.
Great. Where
Na
can we
plataforma
find you on the
da.
gaming?
Na Twitch, vai
Okay.
estar com o mesmo nome do meu. Que eu uso no perfil do jogador, é SpiderMP7.
Mm-hmm.
Só me procurar na Twitch. E no Facebook também, né? Cassiano Cudo. Pode me adicionar se tiver qualquer dúvida também. Sobre Airsoft ou sobre game,
Uh-huh. Great.
o que eu puder ajudar,
Awesome.
estamos aí.
So what I'm going to do is this is going to be set up, and we'll send this off, and hopefully people will start following Cassiano in his gaming, and you know,
Okay.
and follow him on his platforms. As always, we'd like you to like and share. Try to share this with somebody that you know that speaks English and Portuguese and wants to improve their you know, conversation skills or their listening skills. And you know, if you're somebody out there that speaks English at a high level, if you're Brazilian, or if you're an American that speaks Portuguese at a high level, we would love to hear from you. We'd love to interview you and have you on the show. So again, thank you so much, Cassiano, for being with us
Obrigado
today.
você, mano.
And we'll be in touch. Can't wait till we talk again. Okay.
Sim.
All right.
Muitos assuntos a tratar.
Yeah. See you later, man.
See you, man.
Okay. Let's see.